Welcome in to the Energy Tech Podcast presented by OpSite Energy. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Mike Flores. And today, we're talking all things OpSite Energy. It's exciting. Mike, welcome in.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jeff. Good to be right here in Cannonsburg, PA with the Energy Tech Podcast here at OpSite Energy near the control room, and excited to be here. It's going to be a good show. We're going to talk, of course, some of the vertical markets with OpSite Energy and all things OpSite Energy today. So let's kick this off, man. Let's get this started, Jeff. You know, to kind of take us in the direction here you want us to go in the vertical markets for OpSite. You know, unless you want to do some banter. I don't know.
Well, yeah, banter's always good. It's been a while since we've been in the booth. A lot has happened over at OpSite in the meantime. So we're happy to say, one, we have a brand new sign, right? So that's pretty cool. We really like that. It matches another sign we have in the building. But past that, you know, today's kind of the first operations day where, you know, OpSite is taking a leap. We've got contracts in place. We've got a control room stood up, and this is day one, March 1 is contract. So today we'd like to talk a little bit about all the verticals that OpSite's going to be involved in. You know, we've got some like core verticals, and then we've got some non-core verticals, kind of one-offs. But first, I think I want to start with our partnership and kind of explaining the partners that are involved with OpSite and how we assembled this team and kind of how it dictates the vertical markets that we're attacking. So.
Yeah, it's a good idea, Jeff, because we didn't just stand up a control room full of monitors. Anyone can do that. Anybody can throw money at a control room, stand up a bunch of monitors, set up some TVs, and plop some people in it. But I think you're right. I think this one was carefully curated, and we brought in some great partnerships and expertise. In fact, I want to just a quick shout out. He's in the room. We've got Todd Smith with us. Todd's the founder of IDM. He's our technical mastermind. He's actually in production right now with us, and so
welcome in, Todd.
So Todd's here with us in Cannonsburg behind the
Thank
mics.
you for having us.
I'd like to say that Todd is the brains of the operation, and that's probably true. But for sure for some of these verticals, but he's known as the Todd Father.
Yeah,
all things integration, SCADA. He's 30+ years in that world, and brings a wealth of knowledge to the team. Thanks for being here, Todd, on the board.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to have you, Todd. Glad you're here.
So, Todd's company is one of the partnerships. So there's basically 4 partners involved. One of them is a Fortune 500 E&P company. It goes by CNX Resources. They operate pretty much exclusively in Appalachia and the Utica and the Marcellus Shales. They're also they've got a couple interesting verticals outside of the E&P space related to hydrogen, coal bed methane, auto separation during flowback operations, and also a really cool product they got called Zero HP, where they can actually generate compressed natural gas (CNG) with 0 horsepower using formation pressure in these overpressurized shale plays.
Yeah, and so Jeff, I think what this does for us when you talk about CNX being a partnership with OpSite is it brings a technology expertise in the production space,
right? Because
you've got a lot of producers out there. They're in West Texas. They're in any major oil play, West Texas, Louisiana, North Dakota, you name it, they're there. The interesting thing about CNX is they want to not just they're not just committed to the Appalachia, but leveraging technologies in this region is one of the things that they do really well, which is why we partner with them. And they allowed OpSite to come together to really try these technologies, try them out. I mean, at the helm of the company, at the helm on the operations side is Navneet Bell, who's one of our critical advisors for OpSite Energy. And so he brings what I call the MIT technology flavor to the company. And so it's a real good synergy, and it's just kind of a natural partnership.
Right. Yeah, so you hit it on something really cool there. So CNX allows us to kind of have a sandbox to play in and test things, break things, fix things, fail, succeed. Kind of a unique relationship that for sure none of our competitors are going to have.
Right.
But it allows us to kind of jump in. We've got long-term contracts. We've got long-term contracts with other partners that allow us to have basically an R&D budget to take what we're doing to the next level over the next 3 years, as far as AI, machine learning, SCADA, just basic SCADA dev, intuitive screens, et cetera, on the production, midstream, water logistics side, et cetera. So CNX is a big critical piece of this. Our next partner is, like we mentioned, Todd, and Todd owns a company called Industrial Data Management, and they stood up, I think, in 2008. And their core, business is integrating. So integration of technologies. And what do we mean by that? So a lot of the times, more lately, he's spent a lot of time in the energy space,
Sure.
different, upstream, downstream, midstream, all different types of projects where these guys come in and basically do digital transformation, primarily with, SCADA operation screens and things like that. But it really touches the entire business with their approach and how they integrate, from the edge and the field and all the data that's being collected, and how do we make it meaningful, not just to operations, but all the way up the food chain. So IDM is a critical partner there. What separates us from some of our competitors in the control room third-party space is a lot of those guys have like soft partnerships with, a SCADA developer, something that's kind of helping them host SCADA or develop SCADA for their clients, et cetera. But the difference with OpSite is IDM is an ownership partner in our company.
Right.
They have a vested interest in our, being successful, but they also bring, like I said, the brains and the manpower behind this to kind of execute some of the verticals that we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, and if I jump in from the booth back here, I think that's part of the strategy with OpSite Energy is always to be in deploying the latest technology pieces, and that partnership really allows our business strategy to move forward with that mindset, because we have this technology group attached to the OpSite Energy.
Right, and coupled with that, longer term R&D budget, that's kind of like, I wouldn't say prepaid, but it's contracted. That allows us to do some special things that me personally, I've never had a chance to do. Working on the fence of the E&P company or the midstream company, you kind of get this AFE, $500,000, whatever it is. You got a project you're building, and then when it's kind of done, you maybe got like a few enhancements or revisions, and then you're out of money, and the integrator hits the road and goes on to their next project. Right. This allows us to build a best in class product, hopefully basically from the start, and then apply the brain power of IDM and their technology suite to what we're doing over the next 3 years to really take it to the next level. Yeah. Give ourselves, what I consider an ultimate competitive advantage in the space of, third-party control rooms, et cetera. But past that, we'll talk about other verticals that this gives us a competitive advantage in.
Yeah, so bringing in partners, again, OpSite, Energy, you've got CNX, and you mentioned IDM, and, again, the critical partnership there with IDM is you've got an integration team that is not just doing control panels or just doing a DCS platform and then walking away from it. Inside the organization is a team of specialists, right?
Right.
And I know Todd's been doing this. I've worked with him directly, personally on a few projects, and Todd's intimately involved with the delivery of the project. There's another managing partner, Matt James, and Matt is a critical piece to the space when you're talking about midstream plant operations. I call him the plant whisperer. So he's got some really good capability there. We've got an IT, OT team, cybersecurity team, a complete development team. So IDM kind of brings a lot to the table. The good thing about that partnership, Jeff, is that you can learn quickly, and if you fail fast, you're not reaching out to some third-party integrator on a contract. They're in-house. So it's a good part of the operation to do something fast and take a proof of concept and scale it up.
Yeah, and obviously the partnership makes sense for CNX as well. Being an E&P company that's actively drilling, completing, producing wells, the types of services that Todd's company offers is, something they need, annually, monthly, you name it. So yeah, we're really excited about those two partners. We got a couple others involved, minority partners. One is a company you own, Mike, called Mobilytics. Can you give us just a little bit about that company?
Yeah, so Mobilytics was born out of digital transformation. In my career, I've been doing this not just in energy space, but in water, wastewater, all the verticals inside of manufacturing. And I found myself working with the energy groups, the integrators. And so Mobilytics is defined as a digital transformation and AI automation company. So what I do is I go in and look at the process and determine the short need, or what I call the short time to value project that a company can scale up in order to transform.
Right. And so Mike has for those of you who don't know Mike, I don't know if there's anyone around you in your office environment or work environment that like literally knows every single AI application that is being launched, the version that's out there, and it's like somehow he's had time to test every single one of these and bring them to the table. So, I think on a previous podcast, or maybe one that's coming out a little later, I can't remember, talked about an army of one, you and Todd, and the AI generalist, and really that's the kind of skill set that Mike brings to the table. It allows us to do a lot of things quickly for a lot less money. And of course, a lot of that hinges on using AI and the new productivity tools. So we'll actually talk about that here in a subsequent, maybe a podcast I think we might record today to talk a little bit about what those productivity tools are and give you guys some advice and some, free education, so to speak, on how to use them, what's good for this type of application, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, so I'm glad to be here and be part of the strategic group. But let's not forget that, this was OpSite was born out of a large vision that came from you directly, and you're also a partner in OpSite Energy. So kind of give us the insight behind that.
The last partner is a little company called MBN Investments, and it is basically just a company that I owned over the last couple years. That's basically the company I've been using to bill consulting through, et cetera, just because, it's an easy LLC that I have, and it's kind of set up really dynamically for me. But MBN really was a company that was born in 2010. And the goal of MBN is to do, large multifamily real estate investments, and MBN still does that. But, basically, what are you getting from MBN? Obviously, we're not in the real estate market or business. You're just getting me. So sorry, but
but that's unfair. I think you in your career, Jeff. I mean, I've worked with you now for well over a decade, for sure. A decade and a half, really. So, but there's some skill sets you possess because you've had the intimate time with producers like CNX. You've had time at EOG. You've had time at Apache. You've spent a lot of time in, the different roles, whether it was environmental. And one of the things I think that stuck out was, since I've known you, is you saw the need in the control room space or, the remote operation space. You said, man, we can do this better. So I think that was.
Yeah, and that kind of hits our first vertical, really, Mike, is you're right, Mike. So I got into this industry in like 2006, and, I didn't come in with an MBA or anything like that. I was, hourly exempt employee or non-exempt employee. I was a lease operator, essentially, and I worked at a company that we did flowbacks in urban environments, so like the DFW airport. I remember doing one a mile away from downtown Fort Worth. We put these huge sound walls, and most of these flowbacks did not have pipeline connectivity because they're testing. So it's huge flares surrounded by large firewalls in the middle of the city. Literally, in some of these cases, Taco Bell, KFC, like right across the street. So intense environment. Started there. Moved into operations on the well side, well tender side, and then well optimization side. And this was back in the 2008 timeframe with EOG. Did a big transfer down to South Texas. Took on a lot different responsibilities there on the pipeline, integrity, operations, pigging, you name it, on the midstream side. But you're right. In 2014, we launched our first control room at EOG, and it was focused on midstream because we had put in a very large pipeline that was moving quite a bit of barrels a day. $25 million worth of product a day. But, spending 6 months in that environment, learning from you, really, because you came over from a third-party control room for hire company, basically one of our competitors now, back in 2014. And this was all new to me, and I was head of regulatory at the time. So, one of the reasons we got that is because CRM is such a booger. But, we had time to prepare. We built out our CRM programs. And, once we got kind of feeling really good about the midstream side, we approached the production side. And we learned a lot there.
Right.
And, since then, we've stood up more than half a dozen control rooms over the last 10, 12 years. So
yeah, absolutely.
That kind of moves us into our first vertical. And what I'll do maybe quickly is run through these verticals, and I'll pop them up on the screen. And then we'll kind of jump into each one and talk about OpSite's approach to each one, and how we use the partnership and the expertise within the company. And again, we didn't even mention our board. That's a whole other set of expertise that we're bringing in. But you can also go to our website, Todd, if you want to show that, flash that real quick. If you have any questions about what we're talking about today, or you just want it presented in a much easier way to probably digest, we've got our services here. We've got, our team, the industries we serve. Talk a little bit about our partnership as well, and then OpSite Learn. You can even find our podcast there and had a link to it. So, Mike, I think the OpSite verticals that are most important to us, we'll start with those and kind of work down. And again, a lot of these might not be immediate, but they're definitely planned as part of our strategy and business plan. But the first one is remote operations for hire. So, third-party control room. Think about, our competitors in the space. We'll just name them. We got Everline, we got Midstream Integrity Services, we got Lighthouse Midstream. Think about what those guys do as far as control room for hire. And a lot of times their clients or customers are smaller midstream companies
Right.
That may not have the need for a full-time desk in a control room setting, because that requires 4.5, 5 people to run. So they might need a fractional desk. But someone like Everline has about 50 clients in there, but they're all midstream-based clients. So that's our first bread and butter vertical. That's where we have long-term contracts embedded. That's what kind of keeps the lights on. And that was some of the first contracts we signed, or kind of what started OpSite and allows us to kind of go into these other verticals. But let me just name a few of those real quick, and then we'll jump into each one a little bit more. So remote operations for hire, third-party control room. 2, using our partnership with IDM, connecting, SCADA to the cloud, for AI purposes, machine learning purposes, capabilities there, et cetera.
Yeah, overall systems integration in that category, right? All the way from the sensor level to the PLC, to the SCADA system, the DCS, into the ERP, and then upwards into the cloud.
Yep. And then so number 3 is kind of very similar to that. It's basically any kind of modern SCADA design, development, integration, et cetera. Not the AI machine learning piece, but any kind of integration you need there, we can help you find and connect the dots with IDM and their team. Number 4, we have basically data center hosting. So some of our clients will require us, to host data, and I'll throw a picture up on the screen of our data center currently. We got a pretty large space. I think we could probably fit about 60 racks in there.
Yeah.
But past hosting SCADA and other things, Mike, what do you envision we do with that data room, and how can we bring that to our clients and customers?
Well, just like any other data center, what we want to do is be able to host our customers that want to leverage the power of AI and machine learning. So it's not relegated to just energy customers, although energy customers is our bread and butter. That's really anybody that wants the GPU power in a data center, and they want to leverage that. The unique thing in us doing the data center and partnering with companies like CNX is that we want to leverage those and do things like using compressed natural gas to service the data center, since there's such a need, or power hungry. You have lots of power hungry situations for data centers. So that's something that we're working through to develop that, but we definitely have the space. So if you're a company that's requiring anything, it could be GDPR, it could be energy, TSA, any specific requirements, SOC 2 requirements, that is something that we can service, and that's what we're looking for from the data center perspective.
Right. So those are kind of the main 4. Past that, we've got some longer term stuff, one including like, if you didn't need a third-party control room and you're dead set on standing something up in your own space, we can help you do that too. So control room design, procurement, construction. You may think that this is an easy thing, but again, we've built more than half a dozen of these over the last few years, or actually the last decade or so, and we've learned a lot. So anything from intuitive design, ergonomic design, sound design, lighting design, video monitoring. What can make these guys and gals in the 24/7 environment the most successful, and what tools can we provide them, as well as the environment? So next one would be, kind of basically any kind of 24/7 security monitoring, like Mike mentioned, like SOC 2, like a SOC center or something like that. We don't even care if it's a gate guard at a HOA or something like that, opening gates, but anything that requires kind of 24/7, we're open and willing to talk about how we can set up relationships with clients on what their needs are there. Next one is DOT control room compliance services. So like CRM compliance, we do consider ourselves to be SMEs in the space. We've done it a long time, and I think a lot of our clients that struggle with CRM, or if it's just kind of one of those things where you're unsure of what is required. And Todd's actually showing PSM compliance too. So we do have a subject. We have expertise in PSM. PHMSA CRM compliance, et cetera. So if you need any help there, give us a call. We can help you out pretty easily, I believe. And another one tied to DOE, PHMSA, EPA, et cetera, is we're looking at potentially doing grant research. Maybe not under this administration with what's going on at DOGE anytime soon, but we do really want to push the boundary on human performance. So it include things like, like I mentioned, as far as the environment, but past that, the control room that we built, which is literally on the other side of this wall, it's built like a typical control room that you'd see in 2025, large video wall, mini monitors, all those sort of things. But I don't envision that being the control room of the future. I think a lot of things are coming out around, air traffic controlling, all that sort of stuff. It's going to look different. So we want to test some technologies. We have some, like we can do, like on the Meta, on the VR, we can look at our Ignition SCADA platform. And not that I expect anyone to be able to wear a Meta VR system for 12 hours straight, but you'd be surprised how much it takes you out of the environment of the control room. Like even if you're just kind of like, tired of looking at the people that are with you on a 12-hour shift, or, it kind of takes you out of that environment. But past that, looking at things like rapid eye movement, studying that, the Meta allows us to track how humans take data in from these HMIs. So that's something we, if the opportunity presents itself, it's basically just that government cheese that we're hoping to apply to what we're already doing. But we're going to push forward with that R&D. If we did a grant, it would just get accelerated. So, and the last piece really is we're looking at doing final leg application development and potentially product marketing for some of the mobile apps, that we plan on developing over the next 2 or 3 years. There's also a lot of applications that CNX, one of our partner, has built homegrown that are kind of like, they're great internally, they're great, but they're not, and they're so great in I know that they, some of these, like one of the water apps, it's called H2Ops. This is something that we've experienced as far as paying for water, getting water hauled off, knowing that you're not getting screwed over, all these sort of things, and
Right.
the end-to-end process of getting water away from your facilities and paying for that service is very complex.
Right.
And there's a lot of money left on the table. Tickets are not accurate, the whole nine. So they've got a pretty good process. And the reason I know it's great and it's needed is because it's something, we developed something very similar at Apache back in 2017, 2018 timeframe. I've also got contacts in Texas that run these types of operations on water, and they had the same problems. So the same types of problems present themselves somewhat in a vacuum across industry at many different places. So the final application or final leg application development that we're talking about, a lot of it will be like some of these homegrown apps that CNX has basically spent years developing. How do we take those out of their environment, kind of structure it for, consumption by other operators, et cetera, maybe pull it into an iOS environment, Android environment, you name it. Like we would do that for folks.
Well, I think when you encapsulate all the services of OpSite Energy, really the one key thing you can hit on is optimization of those services. So if you start, when Jeff, you kind of went through the list of services all the way from remote ops, all the way into, last mile and last leg applications, all the way into what we're doing even for data centers, there's a real keen push and punch for optimization. So what do we mean by that? I think if, let's say that you are looking for remote monitoring and it's not quite energy related. It is a SOC 2 compliance center. It's construction operations. It's compression operations. It's field surveillance. Any one of those things. Our goal is not to stack bodies in a room. The goal is to optimize the process so that you minimize actual human involvement and reduce it and actually optimize a process.
Right.
That's really the goal. It is never to add, 8 bodies to surveillance. It is what can we do to optimize that part of that surface operation. A great example is what we did with Apache, where we were responsible for not just truck or H2Ops or moving water, but there was surface rental equipment that was coming in, getting rented, and then you had siloed rigs that could not get that, couldn't get a bead on how often they were ordering, how much was it actually costing against the AFE, how much were they really spending, just to figure that out. And then the actual real-time deployment of products. Some vendors were banking on the fact that you would forget that it was on rent, causing additional thousands of dollars in costs. So when we optimized the process, we were able to do three things: optimize the overall field surveillance, create real-time, near real-time, accurate orders, and then cut your costs down, right? So those are some of the things that you look at it. So if you're looking at OpSite Energy, what you're really looking at is an optimization team, right, that fits the bill. And that's what makes us different. You and I, Jeff, we went and visited a company in Austin at one point that received investment dollars from Google, I think it was.
AWS.
Yeah, okay, from AWS. So they received an AWS punch of dollars. And the reason that company isn't around now, I believe, is because they didn't have the base partnership of a team of people that know what it's like to be boots on the ground and have an unoptimized process.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you see the rubber hit the road with a lot of these technology companies that are in the space or trying to, claw into the space on the AI side and other things is, hey, they never pumped a well, right? So,
Yeah.
I'd say that I wouldn't say that's like a critical, competitive advantage, but it seems to come up more than often just understanding the operational side. And, you're someone, Mike, who's at Apache spent, weeks and months like on a drilling rig, on a completion spread, like in the trailer with the company man, figuring out how does he do his job,
Right.
And applying your skill set, a different brain, a different way to look at things. Someone who's not been drilling wells for 20 years, how can I improve this process knowing nothing about it? So you go in there, not knowing much, and it kind of is an advantage in the fact, at least it was at Apache, but we are a team that, has the Todds of the world, but we also have the Jeffs and the Mikes of the world that kind of came up from the bottom, got educated along the way,
Sure.
right? So we I think we're unique in that way. So what I'd like to do now, Mike, and this might end up being a two-part cast, we'll see what we do in post, is kind of jump into each one of these and spend a little bit of time